So thank you so much for inviting me and shortlisting me for the Boku Sustainability Prize. I hope I'm successful. Over the next 8 minutes, I will sort of briefly talk about my research, which was published this year in February in the Journal of Environmental Management, where myself, as a young scientist, as he said, I led the work myself with a bunch of very, very nice and very, very capable co-authors and an international team. And I will after this slide, I will briefly start explaining what I did, what were my motivations, and what are the sort of links to sustainability research that the Boku right now is involved in. So that would be the sort of background here. So the title of my paper was Quantifying and Attributing Land Use Induced Carbon Emissions to Biomass Consumption, a critical assessment of existing approaches. So before I begin, I wanted to ask what are some of the most important global sustainability challenges, and the UN identified 3 of them, which is most relevant to me. But in a course last semester, I wanted to also ask to Boku students what are the challenges for them, and they came up with a bunch of them, which was focused on also consumption and land use change, which we need to figure out has never really recognized borders. There used to be a Silk Route thousands of years ago. And last year there was a ship which was sunk, which was sort of captured in the Suez Canal, which was also transporting a bunch of commodities to across markets, which shows no signs of stopping. Right now, 27% of global forest loss has been attributed to commodity production, which has grown over 40 times over the last 60 years. So this is a humongous amount of consumption that we are doing of biomass commodities, which would sort of make us question the fact that is my afternoon coffee causing carbon emissions? And the fact is, it is, because this is grown on land which would have otherwise remained under natural vegetation. And you could see in this graphic how forest has been replaced by a bunch of different commodities, including coffee, also cattle and oil palm and soy. So this was the motivation of my study, which was trying to see how do different consumption-based approaches quantify land use change induced emissions, and what are the approaches, what are the processes that these approaches capture. So this was the setting of my study, where I looked at a study selection methodology which focused on online literature search as well as a snowball sampling, where I prioritized the diversity of methods more than the number of studies. So this was not a systematic review, but this was an approach review, where we said that it should be attributing to specific commodities, and it should represent areas where significant trade and consumption footprints exist. So we eventually finalized 20 approaches, where we said they would be on a 2x2 grid, where the x-axis represents drivers versus impact, and the y-axis represents if it's looking at past trends or if it's looking into the future. So this was the sort of, among the 20 approaches, this was what we developed as a grid. And we asked, how do approaches arrive at emissions estimate? So from biomass consumption on the left to land use emissions on the right, how do these approaches arrive? We said that they arrive using 3 different approaches or resolutions which need to be taken into account, which is spatial resolution, temporal resolution, and a reference system. Starting with the reference system, we identified 2 of them, which is actual land use emissions or sequestration potential foregone. But in the actual one, the typical question which studies ask or approaches ask is how much emissions are happening due to recent agricultural expansion, where they try to figure this out using carbon stock densities from the literature. As compared to a sequestration potential foregone approach, where a typical question that approaches ask is that what is the opportunity cost of current land use emissions? So if we were not growing coffee, what would be the vegetation existing in that landscape? Where here the typical reference is a hypothetical potential carbon stock data set. The second resolution that we need to focus on was of space, of land, where studies either were spatially aggregated, so looking at nations or regions, where the typical focus was what is the net change in commodity production and its associated carbon fluxes, where it was combined with physical trade matrices to look at commodity trade, as compared to a spatially explicit model, which focused on remote sensing assessments and sort of focused on a change in land use, land cover patterns over a period of time, using a framework of using existing land cover maps to see changes over successive years. So this was the spatial dimension that we identified. And the third dimension we identified was a temporal dimension, which on the face of it was quite straightforward, looking at static versus dynamic. Static being looking at emissions in a particular year from a particular commodity, as compared to a dynamic which looks at multi-year impacts for multiple commodities. So on the face of it, this is easy, but there were two different sort of complications existed. One was about legacy emissions, asking how should carbon fluxes in slow carbon pools, for example, soil, be accounted for. So here, if we have a land use change event in the year 0, commodities are grown in successive years, but soil degrades and loses carbon at a much slower rate. So how should those be accounted for? And the second challenge we encountered was about amortization period, where we asked emissions from one land change event should be distributed how many years into the future. So from one land use change event in year 0, should everything be attributed to 1 year or the first year, or everything be attributed to successive years? Eventually we thought, or we recognized, that approaches follow a very defined set of pathways, starting from a research cluster to a reference system to a spatial resolution and ultimately to a temporal resolution. And we identified pathways which were very, very dominant, which we found. And we found that attribution to commodities, for example, coffee, is affected by the forest change trajectory of the producer and consumer country. But we found that tropical countries, for example, Indonesia, where a bunch of palm oil production happens, is penalized for recent deforestation. But actually the sequestration potential foregone approach is a more neutral approach. The second thing we found is that the choice of spatial resolution determines what kind of land change drivers are we looking at. Are we looking at proximate drivers, for example, expansion of agriculture, or are we looking at ultimate drivers, looking at policy changes? And here the key challenge was that we need to align the spatial scale with our priorities of research. And the third thing we found is that impacts of land management are inadequately represented. Approaches only capture straightforward impacts of land change. So they only say if this is a forest now versus if this is not a forest 1 year later. But land management practices, for example, how grazing happens, is not accounted for. And at the end, I just wanted to say that my research meets environmental policy objectives and can be used for that because it is a platform for comparison and interpretation. This is how research at Boku is contributing to socio-ecological transformations. And this is how my research contributes. Thank you so much.